Hi everybody, I'm Peter Jacobson. Very pleased to be joined by 2010 U.S. Open champion Graeme McDowell. We're going to talk a little bit about the game, about products, but mostly about Graeme and how he prepares to play championship golf. Let's talk a little bit about your career as one of the best players in Europe. How has your role evolved over the years?
You know, you win an event early in your career, but you're still trying to learn who you are and what your position is, or, you know, among the hierarchy of the greats in the game, I suppose. And you kind of go from rookie winner to, you know, sort of seasoned veteran, if you like, you know, being out there for 4 or 5 years. And then you start aspiring to do greater things, you know, like winning a major championship. And, you know, I think the major championship came a little quicker than I thought it was going to come, but I'd sort of, you know, I look at my career and it was so cyclical. You know, I kind of had great years and then average ones, and then better years and then kind of average ones, and then, you know, all of a sudden 2010 comes. You know, I win sort of 2 weeks before the U.S. Open, play the best probably golf of my career, and then go to Pebble and win there, and then things just, you know, kind of nuclear explosion, and, you know, you get thrust into a whole new stage. You know, so it's been a great journey. I guess I'm proud of what I've achieved so far in my career. I want to achieve more things, but I'm proud that I feel like players look at me as a guy who, you know, has done things the right way at times, and would maybe, I get the odd phone call or text message from a young pro kind of wanting some advice, and I think that's probably one of the things that makes me most proud about being out here for nearly 20 years.
Well, from where I sit as a 60s guy, you do things the right way. Guys like Arnold Palmer, who was a good friend of yours, would be extremely proud of how you've matured in the game, which you've done for 20 years now, and you've seen the game evolve. What are your thoughts about how the game has changed, so to speak, over the last 20 years?
My heroes in the 90s, you know, Faldo, you know, the way Faldo used to dissect the golf course, you know, he was like a surgeon. You know, you wouldn't really call Dustin Johnson a surgeon. You know, he's got a sledgehammer instead of a scalpel, you know, but these guys dissect golf courses a different way nowadays. It's a much more aggressive game. It's an attacking game. You know, you look at U.S. Open scores the last 4 or 5 years, not too many level pars taking trophies away. You got to be 10, 15, 20 under par nowadays, and it doesn't matter kind of how hard the golf course is. You can only protect it with firm and fast greens. It's the only protection nowadays. But, you know, it's a power game. You know, we look at the Cameron Champs of the world. They've been telling us for a few years that this is who's coming. These guys are coming, and there's going to be a lot of them, and we're starting to see that now. And you know, the old argument about the golf ball is it going further, or are these kids just better athletes? Are they just better prepared? Is science kind of giving us a better intuition as to how we move the ball these great distances and stuff? So it's going to be really interesting to see how the sport evolves. I think these next 5 years are going to be very critical.
You've played Cleveland products ever since college days, and now so successfully on the tour. What were some of your favorite clubs? What were some of your favorite memories of starting with Cleveland?
Yeah, I remember my first Cleveland wedge. I think most people, you know, played this game remember their first Cleveland wedge. Mine was the 53 Diatic 588. You know, chrome. Wore that thing, wore a little spot right in the middle of that thing when I was about 13, 14 years old. But I've carried kind of the old 48-degree pitching wedge since I was about probably 16, 17 years old, and you know, I used the old Cleveland launcher driver when it came back out around 2000. I used that. I remember playing national championships my last year, leading with that driver, and you know, it was great to hook back up with Srixon in Cleveland in 2011. You know, the golf ball, I'd heard so many great things about it, and the development, and just how strong their ball was, and that was really the big key to the relationship for me, was how good the ball was. And it's been awesome to be with them for 8 seasons and really help grow the equipment and see the equipment get to the level it's got to.
We see so many college programs now develop these young players. I remember back in my day, and probably in your day too, it took you a while before you became comfortable winning on tour. Nowadays, these kids come out ready to jump to the winner's circle.
For sure. You know, I think it's a Tiger factor. It has to be. You know, I think the old belief, the old sort of adage used to be, hey, you know, in your 20s you kind of cut your teeth a little bit, and your 30s was your prime playing days, you know, and you know, you weren't really going to win any major championships probably until your 30s, and that was okay. You kind of earned your stripes, and when you got there, then great. But you know, Tiger's rewritten the books and showed that it's okay to come out in your early 20s and be the best player in the world and blow people away and be special. And I think that the generation that have grown up watching him have a huge amount of belief that right out of the blocks they can do great things, and they come out of college. Sometimes they even skip college and they come out so polished and so ready and so professional, and I don't remember being that professional when I was 22, 23 years old, but these guys are incredible, and like I say, I think we're going to see so many more of them.
You mentioned earlier that it really takes a player a while to determine who you are in this game, in the world of golf. What piece of advice would you give a young player who just got their card embarking on their new career?
I think it's just play your game and really trust your own game, because it takes you places. I won a U.S. Open with a game that I didn't think was very good at the time, and in an attempt to get better, I ended up kind of making myself kind of tangle myself up in knots. So I think believing in yourself. I think looking back, the thing that I wish I'd have done differently, I wish I'd have played more when I was playing great and played less when I was playing badly, because I think we get it the wrong way around. I think when we play badly, we chase and we try to keep playing our way back into good play rather than going home and locking our head in the fridge for a couple of days. Rather than, I think when we play well and we have success, it's very easy to go home and celebrate and kind of think, wow, I'm great. So I'd flip that around. I'd play more when I was playing great and play less when I was playing badly.
But isn't that the natural tendency of players? We want to get better. You just said that you won the U.S. Open with a game you didn't think you could do that. But don't we want to improve? We want to hit it farther, straighter, hit more greens, putt better. But you can get into a trap doing that.
For sure. I mean, you know the sport. Being out in the Champions Tour, these guys are still looking for the secret. They're still looking for the perfect move. That's what's so love-hate about this sport. I think that's mostly love, though. I think that's why athletes from across all sports across the world love the game of golf, because it's such this imperfectible. You can never. It shows you what's possible, and then it doesn't show you again for a little while, and it's so easy to get into the trap of trying to make yourself better, though, and rather than concentrating on what your strengths are and trying to make your strengths better, and obviously chipping away at your weaknesses. But Bob Torrance, the old Scottish coach, used to say, never attempt to strengthen the weak if it means you're going to weaken your strong. And that was kind of one of those things I look back on. I think he was a pretty smart guy.
No, but Bob Torrance, I work with Bob a little bit. I love the phrase that says the game of golf, you can rent it for a while, but you can never own it. And as you prepare for a tournament, how do you prepare differently now than you did 15, 20 years ago?
I think preparation, probably less about the golf course than it ever was. I think being out here for so long, as you get to know these golf courses. The PGA Tour are so amazing at prepping the golf courses the same way every year. We always joke there's just not a blade of grass out of place from the last time we were there, and I always think it's the best part of the job as well, playing the best places in the world in the best possible condition they can ever be in. I think that's one of the kind of great kind of rights that we have out there. But less about the golf course and more just about what the challenges are going to be that week, and the types of shots and the types of demands statistically, I guess, that the golf course is going to have for me that week. Whether it be a driving accuracy golf course, let's get the driver on a string, and maybe there's a lot of 150 to 225 yard shots, making sure those are dialed in, making sure I'm kind of controlling my ball the way I need to, and just focusing my practice on what the tools are going to need, that I'm going to need for that specific golf course.
Who's been your biggest influence in the game?
I've had a lot of influencers in my life. My dad introduced me to the sport. My uncle was my coach until I was 16, 17 years old. I'll probably look back at my uncle, really. I mean, I loved the game of golf. I wanted to get better at the game of golf. I didn't really have any formal coaching. He was my coach until I was 16, 17 years old, and he gave me a really, really great basics. I never had one of those pretty golf swings that we see so much on TV nowadays, but I had a great basics and I had a great work ethic, and I think that he positioned me and gave me the knowledge and the basic knowledge, just enough, not too little, not too much, to take myself to a place, where I was able to climb the ladder, go to college and turn pro, and be able to achieve some cool things in this game.
I happen to believe that the Ryder Cup is the greatest sport event in the world. I know there'd be a lot of people who disagree, but what are your feelings about the Ryder Cup? You've been a part of it as a player, now as a vice captain this year. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, they're the most special weeks of my playing career, without a doubt. I mean, had the honor to win a major championship and come down that back nine on Sunday. There's nothing like being on the first tee of the Ryder Cup on a Friday morning. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like that camaraderie of players. I've played in 4 Ryder Cups. I won 3 and lost 1. Every one of them was special for a different reason. And vice captain this year in France, and that was special for its own reasons as well. But there's nothing quite like that feeling of playing with 11 other guys, playing for each other, and really for a common goal. Because golf's such an individual sport, we never share it. There's something special about sharing the intensity of a back nine, the ultimate pressure, and actually looking across the way and seeing how your colleagues react on that stage, and being able to talk through with a partner and share the experience of being extremely nervous and how we all deal with it.
Yeah, right. I've never been more nervous than I was standing over a putt to win a point or to win a match. What's your favorite memory? What's your favorite match you've ever played in a Ryder Cup?
2008, my rookie year. It was my first full point that I won. It was a Saturday afternoon, playing with Mr. Ryder Cup himself, Pultz. Him and I played Kenny Perry and Jim Furyk, and it was in Kentucky, and Kenny was a local boy, so I mean the crowds were huge, and it was just a quality game of golf where we were throwing birdies at each other, and I played very well, and Pultz played really well, and I speak to Fluff and Jim Furyk, and they still remember that game. They still remember that as one of their favorite games ever. And Pulitzer made a birdie in the last green for us to win one up. And I mean, that was the greatest Ryder Cup game I've been involved in.
What are your goals for the upcoming 2018-19 season?
It's been an interesting 3 or 4 years for me. Had a family and had children and had some off-course kind of business stuff, and it's been amazing kind of reflecting on kind of this game going away, and I feel very intensely that I'm going to miss it when it's gone. So big thing I'm working on right now is really just trying to cherish what I have and to play hard in the moment, because it's very easy sometimes to begrudge what we have when we're out, especially when it's not going well. It's like, man, here we go again. Hate this game, and but like I say, once this game's gone, then I'm not able to play on the biggest stage. It's going to hurt, and I'm going to miss every part of it. So just embracing the sport, working hard. I'm going to have a really good opportunity to play in a lot of big events, and just get myself back fully exempt on the PGA Tour and back in the world's top 100, and just climbing up those ranks again. I want to be out there on Sunday afternoon in the biggest events in the world before this is all said and done, and love to win one with my kids there. That's kind of it's the big vision.
So a bigger question about golf in general. How much do you think golf is hard work and how much is luck? A good bounce versus a good shot.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, right? I mean, Gary Player, the harder I practice, the luckier I get. I mean, it's pretty hard to define it any other way but that, It's kind of like, it's amazing how many times we stand over a shot and our brain kind of has that flash of the bad one, and you look up and that ball's tracing the exact vision that your brain, it's an amazing amount of sort of mental strength required to play this game well. I feel like if you're looking for bad luck, you're going to find it. If you have a huge amount of belief in what you're doing and positive, and are able to shake off kind of bad bounces and stuff, I mean, good stuff's going to happen to you. It's hard work, and it's mental toughness, and it's just a huge amount of patience, and just knowing that that little ball doesn't know much about what's up there, kind of swinging at it. But it's amazing if we don't think the right way, that ball feels like it knows.
Are you your biggest critic? Do you look at your game and rip it apart objectively to improve?
I think so. I think I'd say most players are probably their biggest critics. I mean, I know some players out there that have an unbelievable attitude of, I've never hit a bad shot. There was always a external factor that created that bad shot. I've always kind of been the opposite. I've always kind of, I'm not a guy who'd blame the caddy. I'm not a guy who would blame anything else except, me, just bad swing or bad process or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think I've probably been too tough on myself over the years. We talked about it earlier. I won a US Open with a game that I didn't think was good enough to be at the highest level. And, in a pursuit to get better and better and better, I ended up kind of doing some things that I used to do well, starting to do them badly again. But it's a tough game, and like you say, I mean, when we're critical of ourselves, it's very difficult. Thanks,
Graeme. Here's to getting back to the winner's circle and 2020 Ryder Cup team for Europe.
Let's do it.
Yeah, good
Love it,
luck to
Jake.
you.
Thanks, man.